It's time for the LA Kings to get ready to pay their best player. How much will it cost to re-sign Adrian Kempe? That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show wrapping up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend. I bought a new barbecue and christened that with some burgers and whatnot. Good times. We are going to discuss today on this show the LA Kings and what they're going to do if they can or cannot re-sign defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov. Also, we'll talk about a Kings prospect striking gold. We'll give you details on that coming up. But we start with the LA Kings needing to lay the groundwork now to sign their top player to a new big contract. And that player would be Adrien Kempe. Now, if you're talking about who was the MVP of the LA Kings last season, certainly Darcy Kemper is a candidate, Vladislav Gavrikov as well. But Adrien Kempe should be in the discussion as well. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no debate on who the Kings' best player is. That is Adrien Kempe. Now, he's, not only one of the team's best forwards, but probably their best scoring threat, their best finisher as far as scoring. He is in the discussion as being the Kings' best defensive forward, even with Selke Trophy winner Anze Kopitar still on the team. And Kempe just does a little bit of everything. He can kill penalties. He can score on the power play. He's got an underrated physical edge to his game. Certainly not a big hitter, but he is a very effective defensive player. And again, he has that little bit of an edge to him. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's not afraid to get his nose dirty, whether it's playing defense or going hard to the net. And when you look at the most underrated players in the entire NHL, I believe Adrien Kempe's name should be pretty close to the top of that list. Now, if he played in a more offensive system, in a bigger market, with some more dynamic teammates, he could be, I think, a 90-point player per season and probably be considered more of a legitimate star in the NHL. Being on the West Coast certainly probably plays into that a bit as well. The games are late. Not a lot of people stay up on the East Coast to see the Kings games. But he is still a very respected player. People in the know what kind of player he is. He's a very, very good player. In the Kings system, he gets around 70 points consistently. 2 seasons ago, career high 75 points. This past season, 73 points to lead the team in scoring for a second straight season. His 35 goals also led the team this past year and tied for the second most goals he's scored in a season in his career. He was second on the Kings with 7 power play goals. His 7 game-winning goals were tied for the team lead with Warren Foegele. Kempe was a part of the Four Nations face-off this year as one of the top players from Sweden and had a really good tournament there as well. Now, with the upcoming NHL draft coming up, the Kings are picking 24th, and Adrien Kempe is a reminder that you can get good players even late in the first round. Adrien Kempe was the 29th overall pick back in 2014. And looking at that draft, that was a hell of a draft. Guys like Leon Draisaitl, William Nylander, Kevin Fiala, David Pastrnak, Sam Bennett, Dylan Larkin, and Adrien Kempe can hold his own with any of those players who were all taken ahead of him. Now, Kempe is coming off a 4-year, $22 million contract that was paying him $5.5 million per season. He obviously got this season coming up, and then he will be an unrestricted free agent. And for all the hand-wringing and the eye-rolling over the contract that Rob Blake gave Drew Doughty, certainly, and timing's always a factor in these things, but the 4-year deal for $22 million for Adrien Kempe, a flat-out bargain. So there's always a few on one side and a few on the other, but the Kempe deal was a steal for the LA Kings. And now the salary cap is going up. His value to the team is as high as it's ever been. And now Adrien Kempe has earned a sizable raise. And my guess is that he's going to get at least $8 million per season, maybe more with a salary cap going up. He's clearly a very important player for the LA Kings now and in the future. Now, when you look at the highest paid wingers around the NHL, you've got guys like Mikko Rantanen, Artemi Panarin, the aforementioned David Pastrnak. They're all making around $11 million per season. Mitch Marner and Jonathan Huberdeau are not far behind. Marner's obviously going to pass everybody as the biggest free agent this offseason. Then you got Sebastian Aho making around $10 million. And then you've got kind of the next level of wingers. And I think that's where Adrien Kempe fits in. As I said, the cap is going up. It wouldn't necessarily be unheard for him to get maybe $9, maybe even $10 million a year, but he's worth it. Adrien Kempe is going to turn 29 this September. There are a couple of comps, I think, for Kempe. Maybe a guy like a Rope Hansen Dallas, who's 28 years old. He's in year 3 of an $8 million deal. He's making $8.45 million per season. New Jersey Devils forward Timo Meyer's 28 years old. He's in year 3 of an 8-year deal that pays him $8.8 million per season. So, like I said, $9 million, maybe a little bit more, 9.5. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility for Adrien Kempe. Now, those guys were a bit younger when they signed those deals, so their teams were paying for a couple of prime seasons that the Kings will not be paying for. But it would not be, I don't think, out of the question for Adrien Kempe to get an 8-year deal. He would be 37 years old when that contract expired. That's the same age as Anze Kopitar is right now. However, unlike Kopi, Adrien Kempe's game does rely on speed, and he's likely not going to get faster as he gets older. So there is that factor, although I think Adrien Kempe is a smart enough player and a good enough player that he would be able to adjust his game and find other ways to be effective. But, you know, again, that's kind of looking at it from the LA Kings side of things. If you're kind of projecting and something that you're like, well, we're going to be paying for this, and, you know, this is where your game really excels, so on and so forth. So there are several players in the NHL who have signed 8-year deals at or around the same age as Adrien Kempe would be. Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche signed an 8-year deal at the age of 28. Jonathan Huberdeau signed an 8-year deal at the age of 29. Jake Gensel of the Tampa Bay Lightning, an 8-year deal at 29. Carter Verhaeghe of the Panthers, Elias Lindholm of the Bruins, also all 8-year deals at the age of 29. So it is very possible that the LA Kings could do the same for Adrien Kempe. If you don't know, you can re-sign your own players to an 8-year maximum deal. If you're getting a player from somewhere else, if you're signing a unrestricted free agent, for example, you can only give them a 7-year deal. So it's a little extra incentive to be able to re-sign your player, or for the player to want to re-sign with you to get that extra year. Now, if you're looking specifically at the Kings, they, not that long ago, signed a 29-year-old to an 8-year deal. That was Drew Doughty, $11 million per season. Again, I know a lot of people look at that contract and shake their head and roll their eyes, but don't blame Drew Doughty. He just said yes. If you're going to blame someone, blame Rob Blake for giving him all that money. Now, the wild card in this, I mentioned Rob Blake. There's a new general manager, Ken Holland. Now, you would think even for someone from outside the organization coming in like Ken Holland, that he knows what kind of player Adrien Kempe is. He was with the Edmonton Oilers for many years. He was in the same division as Adrien Kempe. I'm pretty sure Ken Holland doesn't need to be told by anyone in the organization how good Adrien Kempe is. And I've said before, you know, teams should want to reward players who have given everything that they can to that organization. And I'm not suggesting you just give money to a guy based on what he's done. You have to also look to what they're going to do. It's not a lifetime achievement award. It's what this player is going to do for you now and in the near future. But again, Adrien Kempe is, I believe, the best player on the Kings. You want to reward those kinds of players, especially guys who you drafted and you developed and came within your organization like Adrian Kempe. I think when you re-sign those guys and you compensate them fairly, it sends a message that to the rest of the organization, to the rest of the players, that you take care of your own. And if you do all the right things like Adrien Kempe has done, in the end, you get rewarded for being basically a phenomenal employee. Now, clearly at this moment, Kempe is not a priority. He is signed through next season. We've got work to do on Vladislav Gavrikov, Andrei Kuzmenko, Tanner Jeannot, Trevor Lewis, and David Riddick. Those are all unrestricted free agents. They're the priority. Then you've got restricted free agent Alex Laferriere to take care of. Any trades that might be made before next season starts. But once you get the roster set for next season, then Adrien Kempe is the priority. Now, Ken Holland doesn't have to wait till then. They could sign him to a deal tomorrow that would kick in after his contract expires, and that's not going to count against the salary cap for this coming season. I'm sure Ken Holland has reached out to Adrien Kempe's agent and said, hey, I know we're going to take care of you. The raise is coming. Obviously, I'm new on the job. I got some other things to take care of, but as soon as those are taken care of, we're going to sit down. We're going to take care of Adrien Kempe and get that new deal done at some point. Now, next season, we think maybe Anze Kopitar's contract will come off the books. If that happens, that's an extra $7 million to pay Kempe or anyone else as well. Again, the salary cap will go up after this season as well. So I have no doubt that the LA Kings are going to take care of Adrien Kempe, as they should, but I am curious to see what the number is going to be. Is it going to be an 8-year contract? What the average value is going to be? Those types of things. But the LA Kings are going to take care of Adrien Kempe, as he is the Kings' best player. What will the LA Kings do if Vladislav Gavrikov does not return? We'll discuss that next year on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. As we have discussed a few times this offseason, the LA Kings' biggest decision in terms of their roster from this last year is to re-sign or not re-sign defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov. Now, there is a debate on if he'll be worth the money that it's going to cost the Kings, as Gavrikov is one of the top to-be free agent defensemen available. The feeling with Gavrikov has been that the team was looking to re-sign him, and he was looking to re-sign with the team, but that may or may not have changed with Rob Blake stepping down and Ken Holland taking over. Now, maybe Holland values Gavrikov the way it seemed Blake did. Maybe not. We'll have to see. Personally, I'm all for re-signing Gavrikov, unless he's asking for something outrageous, which I don't think he will be. I think that he is definitely earned a raise. Likely going to get $7 to $8 million per year, likely asking for a long-term deal. But what if the Kings decide they don't want to resign Vladislav Gavrikov? What are the other options that are out there? So I said Gavrikov is one of the top, if not the top, UFA defenseman that'll likely go to market. If he's not the top guy, then Aaron Ekblad of the Florida Panthers would be. There's a debate between those two guys. Although to me, frankly, I prefer Vladislav Gavrikov. Ekblad's 29, so is Gavrikov. Ekblad's 6'4", 220. Gavrikov's 6'3", 220, so pretty much the same size. Unlike Gavrikov, Ekblad is a right shot, so it's not like you're just going to plug and play him if Gavrikov were to leave and you were going to add Ekblad. I really like Gavrikov's versatility. He can play both sides effectively, as we saw this past season when he was in for Drew Doughty. I don't know if Ekblad can do that or not. I don't know if he has that versatility. My guess is probably not. Gavrikov is very reliable. He played in all 82 games last season. The 2 previous seasons, he played in 72 and 72 games. Ekblad has had his issues as far as staying in the lineup. Played 56 games this season, 51 games the season before that due to various injuries. He was also suspended for using performance-enhancing drugs at the end of the season. And during the playoffs for the Florida Panthers, he was hit with a 2-game suspension for an illegal hit. So there are times when he takes himself off the ice for things that he does, in addition to, the health issues that he has had. But it is the playoffs where Aaron Ekblad has the advantage. Now, if you want playoff experience, he certainly has that. Looks like he's about to make his 3rd consecutive trip to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Florida Panthers. 2 years ago, he appeared in 20 playoff games. Last year, 24. And so far this season, 12. He also does give you a little bit more offense. Gavrikov has never had double digits in goals in his career. Ekblad's career high in goals was 16. He has dropped off, though, the last couple seasons. And that goes hand in hand a little bit with his health issues. He had just 3 goals last year and 3 goals this year. That's less than what Vladislav Gavrikov has had the last 2 years. Gavrikov had 6 goals and 5 goals. Their points are similar for the past couple of seasons anyway. Ekblad can play on your penalty kill and your power play, while Vladislav Gavrikov basically just a penalty kill guy. Ekblad is coming off a deal that was paying him $7.5 million per season. So he's not going to be looking to make any less money than that in his next contract. So you would probably have to be signing him for pretty much about the same thing you're going to sign Vladislav Gavrikov for. So my feeling is, if it's a debate between those 2 guys, why not stick with the guy that you know, unless, of course, something happens and maybe Gavrikov gets a better deal to go somewhere else. Then Ekblad is a decent fill-in, a decent replacement. Again, a little bit different because if you get Aaron Ekblad, he's going to play on the right side. So now you have a hole to fill on the left side. So there's that. As far as Ekblad could be in demand from other teams as well, for sure. So other options as far as free agent defensemen that the Kings maybe could get if Vladislav Gavrikov doesn't come back. You got veteran defenseman Dmitry Orlov of the Carolina Hurricanes. But frankly, if you've watched the way he's played this year in the playoffs, I think I would pass on him. He is a left shot defenseman, but he's about to turn 34. Ivan Provorov is an amusing possibility, considering that the LA Kings have already been paying part of his salary. You might remember Provorov was a part of the 3-team trade between the Kings, Flyers, and Blue Jackets. The Kings picked up Provorov from the Flyers in the trade that sent Cal Peterson and Sean Walker to Philadelphia. Provorov was then, as part of the deal, sent to the Blue Jackets, with LA agreeing to pay 30% of Ivan Provorov's salary. So Provorov didn't play for the Kings, but part of his salary was paid by the LA Kings last season. His salary is now off the books as he is a UFA. Provorov is a left shot, 28 years old, made $6.7 million last season in the final year of a 6-year deal that he signed in Philadelphia. He would be able to be plugged into Gavrikov's spot. He's going to be looking to make around $7 million, maybe $8 million as well. So he's in that same range as Gavrikov and Ekblad, although I think he's a bit of a drop below those 2 guys, certainly defensively in comparison to Gavrikov, and probably just all around game. He does not have the postseason experience of an Aaron Ekblad as well. So he would be, to me, plan C as far as, if Gavrikov were to go and Ekblad were not to want to come to Los Angeles. Now, if Gavrikov does leave, what would the Kings look at to possibly do internally? Well, we saw it this past season. You could elevate Joel Edmondson to the second pairing and Jacob Moverar to the third pairing on the left side. That's what the Kings did when they moved Vladislav Gavrikov from the left side to the right side for the injured Drew Doughty. Thing is, if the Kings are looking to upgrade from last year, that's not an upgrade. So the only reason they did it last season was because it was the best option at the time. Now, maybe the Kings will be forced into that if Gavrikov leaves and they're unable to get anybody else to come in that they feel is better than what they have. But I don't think that would be a great situation. Now, maybe the Kings, deal with that and play that kind of a lineup. And then at the trade deadline, looking to add somebody to play defensively. It's a possibility, but and of course there are also trade possibilities. The Kings, we're talking about free agents. The Kings could make a trade for a defenseman to come in if Vladislav Gavrikov were to not re-sign with the LA Kings. In the end, I will be very surprised if the Kings do not re-sign Vladislav Gavrikov. But again, there are some other options out there if in fact that does happen that the Kings obviously have to consider. Now we have a top four, or we had four players participating in the World Championships. One of them struck gold. We'll tell you who that is next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. There is nothing like playoff hockey, the energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action. With Stanley Cup playoffs heating up, there has never been a better time to see it live, and Game Time makes getting tickets fast and affordable. Game Time gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, tickets often drop as far as the price goes the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. Seeing the exact seat I'm going to sit in before checking out also gives me total confidence of what I'm going to get. Game Time includes fees up front and backs up every order with their ticket coverage guarantee. It covers cancellations and also can even offer 24-hour returns. Speaking of planning ahead, the NFL schedule is out, and I'm looking at my fall calendar to find out which games I'm going to go to. Game Time makes getting NFL tickets just as easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, the World Championships in hockey just wrapped up over the weekend over in Sweden and Denmark with some surprising results. This one blew me away. For the first time in 92 years, the United States won the World Championships at the expense of LA King Kevin Fiala and Switzerland. The USA gets a 1-0 overtime victory for the gold medal. Tage Thompson, the son of former LA King Brent Thompson, scored the only goal in sudden death to win it. And even though he did not dress out for any of the games in the tournament, LA Kings goaltender Hampton Sukinski does go down as part of the team. He was the third goalie for Team USA. And as I said, going into the tournament, what an awesome experience for the 19-year-old. And what a year it has been for the Kings draft pick. First, he backstopped Western Michigan University to their first ever NCAA title as a freshman. He now has a World Championship gold medal to go along with a World Junior Championship gold he won in 2025. And he also has an under 18 World Championship as well that he won in 2023. So Slukinski and teammate Z Boyum, the first ever Americans to win gold at the World Juniors and the World Championship in the same year. I know a lot of people are high on Carter George as the future star in net for the LA Kings, and I get that. He's a very talented young player. But Hampton Slukinski is a flat-out winner. He wins everywhere he goes. He is still unsigned by the Kings, so I'm going to be very curious to see how both sides proceed with this. Now, he still has 3 more years of his college career, but if he plays out his college career and he isn't signed by the Kings by the time his eligibility is up, he becomes an unrestricted free agent and can sign with any team in the NHL. Now, it's still a ways off, and things can change between now and then. But something to keep in mind regarding Hampton Slukinski. Regardless, though, again, amazing experience for him to be on that team, to be at practice, to work out around NHL goalies like Boston's Jeremy Schwayman, who had the shutout in the gold medal game, and Seattle's Joey Decord, as well as other NHL players that he was around and getting to hang out with and work out with and see shots from and things like that. So unbelievable experience for Hampton Slukinski. And gold medal, regardless of being the third goalie or not, that is quite an accomplishment for a guy who, again, just seems to be a part of winning organizations and winning teams everywhere he goes, Hampton Slukinski. I did mention that Kevin Fiala and Switzerland were the tough luck loser once again. I think that's 3 silver medals in the World Championships for Kevin Fiala. Although he had a solid tournament, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points in 8 games for Fiala. And of course, most importantly, he survived that event injury-free. So he'll be ready to go for next season. Philip Deneau and Canada shocked in the tournament by Denmark in the opening round of the knockout stage. Now, that game was played in Denmark, so they had a pretty significant home ice advantage, but still, that was a Canadian team that had Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon on the roster and others. Philip Deneau finished with no goals, 2 assists, 2 points in 8 games in the tournament, did not get a shot at a medal. And there is still one LA Kings prospect in action. That is defenseman Jared Woolley, the Kings 6th round pick in 2024, and his London Knights have a 2-0 record in the Memorial Cup, the championship tournament of junior hockey. They beat Moncton 3-2 in overtime on Saturday, and then picked up a 3-1 win over Rimouski also over the weekend. Woolley, 6'4", 215 defenseman, did not have a point in either of the 2 games, but he and the London Knights looking good so far in the Memorial Cup, which is a big deal up in Canada. If you're not familiar with it, London will be back in action on Tuesday against Medicine Hat, which is just a wonderful name. All right, that'll do it for today's show for you everydayers. Those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, we are working on some special interviews this week. We're going to continue to look at Kings players on the roster, look at their past season and what their future is like for the team, and also we'll look at what the Kings could do in free agency as well. We would invite you to stay connected with the show. You can send us an email at any time to talk about anything. LockedOnEddie@gmail.com is the email address, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We appreciate that. Helps the algorithm. And we'd love for you to stay connected with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.